How do I use ChatGPT? And even if you're a veteran to ChatGPT, you might be wondering, how can I use ChatGPT to slow down? Use it as an AI thought partner, think tank, just a dialogue to help you get better at what you want to do. And you may have a list of things you want to do, but I'm going to have you challenge ChatGPT to slow down and keep you part of the conversation. So we're going to jump into 5 ways you can get ChatGPT to create an environment where you are part of the conversation. Here are 5 things that you can do to get ChatGPT to think with you and not just for you. Stay part of the conversation. Think through ideas together. Turn prompts into conversations. Find research to fuel the discussion. And finally, reflect before moving forward. Over the past 2 years, I have realized that I will ask ChatGPT something and ChatGPT just spits it all out. It's like this waterfall of information. And I've said that before in other videos. But sometimes you get this waterfall of information, and some of the ideas are good, but they don't feel like you. And you're not even sure what to do with it because it's so much that it gives you. So, what you can do is to keep yourself part of the conversation is to tell ChatGPT, keep me part of the conversation. So, this is a prompt that I wrote. I want to discuss ways that I can get better at using data to inform instruction. You can say to get better at using data to inform my business, to get better at data to inform my business in real estate. Anything like you can change that first statement, whatever you want to do. You are an expert coach. Now, I tell ChatGPT it's an expert, not because it's going to feel warm and fluffy, but I sometimes wish that ChatGPT would have this great personality. Maybe it kind of does because it can be a little pushy. And then I tell it, keep me in the dialogue. Ask me questions and don't just waterfall a lot of info, meaning like rain it all down. We are learning and thinking together. Are you ready? Like, are you ready to chat? And ask it, like, make it slow down. Now there are many things that I like to talk about with ChatGPT. Like when you prompt, when you ask it something, you want to give it a task. You want to give it context. I gave it context. I know that the context was I needed to slow down, and specifically, I want to get better at using data to inform instruction. But remember, we could use data to inform anything. It could be public data for real estate, the latest housing market information, the things I don't really know very much about, but you could ask it to help you. So it could be about the stock market, stock market, so many things. So absolutely, are you ready? Or I'm ready to chat. I love that you're thinking of this as a dialogue. You're already doing what great educators do. It's making me feel good about myself, reflecting and looking for ways to improve. Let's start with something simple to ground us. When you say using data to inform instruction, what does that look like for you right now? Can you walk me through a recent example? Now it's asking for an exemplar. It wants an example, which brings us to tip number 2. Think through the ideas together. Like we're going to think through this process together. So I could give it an example and we could find an example. So let's go and find an example quickly. This is a really good exemplar. Now, I'm in the state of California, but sometimes I like to practice a little bit with data that's not in California. So what I did is I went to the Ohio Department of Education, and I'm getting the snapshot of the nation's report card for Ohio. And it's giving me information here, which is really nice information. You can go to Google and find any of the nation's report cards for each state, but this one is specifically for Ohio. Now, I downloaded it and it's giving me a lot of information, and I don't want to read it. But what I am going to do is I did go ahead and download it. I'm going to give it this exemplar. I'm going to upload it from my download file folder, and we can ask it a question. Tell me about this Ohio State Nation's report card. Pretend I work in Ohio and want to use this to inform instruction. Read it, give me three main things, then let's chat. Let's see what it does. And typically, when you give it an exemplar, it's going to read the exemplar. It asked me for an example. So exemplar, overall performance is stable. It tells me that Ohio's average score in grade 4 math, 239, slightly above the nation's average. Okay. Performance has remained relatively flat since 2022, which I kind of expected, but 43% of students are performing at or above proficiency level. Now, number two, there are equity gaps. You can clearly see that certain student groups do lower than other student groups. You can see that there's 27 points lower than their peers if they're economically disadvantaged. And then you can see there are gender differences. And I don't want you to focus so much just on student groups, because you always want to focus on how students do in that student group. But what you do want to do is consider how students are doing, and then what could I do to inform what I need to do in the classroom? Let's chat. Most of my students do well, but about 50% still need help in mathematics, especially thinking. So now I gave it something. Like now we're at looking at tip number 3, turning prompts into these conversation. Like turn the prompt now into this another conversation and thinking about their thinking. So let's see. That's a great start. And thank you for being honest about where your students are. When you say especially thinking, let's pause there for a second. Can you tell me what that looks like? Oh, in your classroom. I'm just going to tell it the 8 mathematical practices. 1, attend to precision. Can't even spell right now. 2, 7, and 8 avenues of thinking. And 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, navigating the thinking process. Now, I know this already because it's something that I think about all the time, but I'm telling it now what I want to focus on. Now, even though the data that the state gave me, I know it does talking about the thinking, or the United States gave me, or the nation's report card gave me, I am confident that this is an area of struggle, but I already knew that. But now it's asking me to think about some things. It's making me feel good all about myself. Then it's reminding me that I said 50%. And then how do your students show or not show evidence of SMP1, making sense of problems and persevering in solving them? So what did I say? I said precision, attend to precision, which is that might be, no, that's right. So are they diving in and trying multiple approaches? Do they give up quickly? Are they unsure how to start? This is too simple. Thinking process and productive struggle. Like I already know that, but that doesn't mean you don't know that. So giving ChatGPT this conversation. Now I'm going to push it and go into tip number 4. How can we find research to support this? Is there research to support SMP 2, 7, and 8? I like your 3 questions. Come back to that. You have to forgive me. My hand is tight. I don't know why today. So, and I don't want to focus on 3. It keeps wanting to do that. I want to restructure ChatGPT and say, keep 2, 7, and 8 part of the conversation first. Avenues of thinking. Can they argue and have conversations? Can they look at patterns, things like that? So can they reason abstractly and quantitatively? Can they cognitively be flexible? So research, here it is. Students who are taught to explicitly decontextualize and recontextualize, big words, meaning the context. What's the context? Demonstrate stronger transfer of mathematical ideas in new situations, and then implications. If your students are struggling with thinking, it could be a sign that they're not yet fluent in bouncing between context and computation. So, what is the context and computation? I would now say, okay, we need to reflect. This is tip number 5. Like, okay, what does this mean? Explain. This is too much. This is too much. Explain this and context and computation specifically. Like that might just be, that's a lot. And I know I don't want you to focus so much on the content that I'm looking at. What I want you to see is that I'm making ChatGPT think, and I'm giving the knowledge that I already have to ChatGPT. We forget that we have knowledge. ChatGPT does not have to be the only person, thing, bot, a bunch of people in the background thinking for us. It can slow down. Okay, so what does decontextualize and recontextualize mean? It's about moving between the story and math. So Sarah has 3 bags with 4 apples each. How many apples? So context is the story. This is the context. It's like when I give ChatGPT context, what's the background? And then computation. Can I do the math? And then decontextualizing, meaning take the story and turn it into numbers. Great, can do that. Recontextualizing. Perfect. And then I would say we need to focus on the 3, 4, 4, 5, and 6. What are they? Then let's, by the way, I know I'm typing this terribly. Then let's chat. ChatGPT doesn't care about your spelling. I think that we can always fix our spelling later, especially if you're in a writing prompt and doing all those things. So don't get worked up if you spell something wrong. Just hit enter, because you will sit here all day and rewrite it. So construct viable arguments. So it is 3. 3 is construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. This one is a very strong one, modeling with math. Like when this defines real world problems, 3 groups of 4, like the math that was previously here with the apples, 3 times 4 or 3 groups of 4, that is real world. I think we get caught up in some real world outside of your classroom thing. No, you don't need to do that. And then using diagrams and graphs and tables, that's tangible and something students can grapple with. And then using appropriate tools strategically, like it's giving you the ideas here, and then attending to precision. Number 6, tend to precision. Why do I keep thinking that's 1? Persevering through the problem. If kids can't persevere through the problem, which is number 1, then they are done. Like they can't finish. So now it's telling me, so let's chat. Where do you think your students struggle most in making their thinking visible? This is where you keep being part of the conversation, slowing down, keep this as a process that you may want to keep in the future, and organize yourself. And we can talk about how to group things and organize them in another video. But for now, keep thinking about how you can use ChatGPT as this cognitive thought partner, think tank. Tell it it's a think tank. Tell it that you have a group of people in a boardroom or in a conference room, and you're going to keep them all a part of the conversation, and they all will have a different thing to add to the conversation. You can say, slow down, this is too much, regroup, redo this, I need something different, and then give it your ideas, give it your background knowledge. You know what your expertise is, and then you can have ChatGPT find some other research and then integrate that in what you are already doing. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Tell me how you're using ChatGPT to make you better and make you think more efficiently and productively.